And today we're talking about DC's Wonder Woman, directed by Patty Jenkins and starring Gal Gadot. It is Gadot, right, and not Gadot?
No, I think she says Gadot is
Gadot.
how you pronounce it, yeah.
And that is why you double-check. Gal Gadot.
yeah, because I used to say Gadot as well, but apparently she says no, it's Gadot. So.
Gadot. Okay, cool. I learned something today. So, spoiler alert, we are going to be going in depth about Wonder Woman, and I'm going to do a recap of the story. But before I do that, I just want to get everyone's quick general take and impression of the film, starting with Rich. Just tell us what you think about it.
It's okay, I suppose. I saw it in the cinema like the first night it came out. I saw the late showing, and it was okay. It's it's better than Man of Steel. It's better than Justice League, and it's better than Batman vs Superman. And yeah, that's Squad. About it. And it's better than Suicide Squad. Yeah. I mean, it's just a bit. It's one of the. I don't really go and watch it unless I have to, and that hasn't been very often. Like I've watched it because you guys have brought it up, and it did remind me that there was like quite a few good bits in it, but it's not one of like my go-to superhero movies at all. Whether if you're just talking about DCEU or Marvel, I'm talking in general.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, Jason, how do you feel?
Not dissimilar from Richard. When I first watched Wonder Woman, I had a lot of problems with it. On second viewing for the podcast, I realized there's actually quite a few things that I do like that it does. But I think it's a very clunky film, particularly in the third act of the movie. And that brings down a lot of the good work that it does preceding that act and that part of the film. Gal Gadot is fantastic, which is something I never thought I would say because I thought she was awful in Fast and the Furious and everything else I'd seen her in since. But she's brilliant as Wonder Woman. But unfortunately for me, she couldn't really save the movie as a whole.
Okay, yeah, we're definitely going to talk a lot about that third act. But Tazziii, what do you feel?
One of my favorite DC superhero films.
Okay.
To be fair, Tazziii, you're like that's not a bad thing at all because considering the movies that preceded this film, I mean, if we were just to take Wonder Woman in comparison to what came before it, Suicide Squad, Batman v Superman, and Man of Steel, then Wonder Woman is head and shoulders above all of those. I personally think Batman v Superman is appalling. I really think it's one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. There's no shame in feeling some joy with Wonder Woman when it's placed in that crowd. It's easily better than those, easily.
What did you like in particular, Tazziii?
There's quite a few bits, but definitely watching the second time around, I was like, oh yeah, this feels really good.
Okay.
I mean, I like the way, Diana's, also I like the way they just call her Diana and not Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
She's Diana. Her journey for it, and the fact that when she first goes to London, she's just her. She's just this woman that's grown up on an island without men and with just her own moral compass.
Yeah.
With just things don't affect it. Just things don't affect her. Like her personhood.
Like who she is.
Yeah. Apart from learning and growth, but not in like this is stuff, so now I'm going to change who I am. There's just so many moments that it's like, no, this is what I know and this is what I believe in and I've learned. It's not like she's completely oblivious to everything of the rest of humankind, but because she's like got history books and has been taught stuff, and but it's just all very new to her. And there's just this one moment, and it's just sort of, I don't know, I feel like they capture really well that she's lived on an island with no connection at all at any point.
Yeah. No,
like
I get that.
when she first sees a baby and she's just like, oh, baby. And Steve's kind of just like, let's stay on topic, shall we? And she kind of puts that into perspective, yeah.
All right, let me give my thoughts. So I really liked the film, and I watched it, I can't remember how early when it came out, but when it came out and watched it again, and it, on the second viewing, it kind of reminded me of like the good things about it that I liked. I'm like, yeah, I really like that. But then the bad things about it, I'm like, I wish they had gone in a different direction, particularly the third act. So it kind of solidified the extremes of the film for me. But yeah, we'll get into that. Let me go into a recap of the story. So Wonder Woman sees a young Diana raised on the hidden island of Themyscira, home to female warriors created by Zeus to protect mankind. Diana's mother, Hippolyta, explains their history to Diana, including how Zeus left them a weapon, the God Killer, to prepare for the return of Ares, the god of war. In 1918, Diana rescues pilot Captain Steve Trevor when his plane crashes and the island is invaded by German soldiers. The Amazons kill the crew, but Antiope sacrifices herself to save Diana. Steve is made to reveal details about his role in the Great War consuming the outside world. He's stolen a notebook from the German chemist, Dr. Isabel Marou, who is engineering a deadlier mustard gas under the orders of General Erich Ludendorff. Believing Ares to be responsible for the war, Diana leaves Themyscira with Steve to free mankind from Ares' influence. In London, Diana translates Marou's notes, revealing that the Germans plan to release the deadly gas at the Western Front. Steve, with secret funding from Sir Patrick Morgan, recruits a team to prevent the gas from being released. The team reaches the front in Belgium. Diana leads Allied forces through no man's land to capture the enemy trench and liberate a nearby village. The team briefly celebrate while Diana and Steve fall in love. Steve and Diana later infiltrate a gala held at German High Command. Diana moves to kill Ludendorff, but Steve stops her to avoid jeopardizing his mission. Blaming Steve for intervening, Diana pursues Ludendorff to a base where the gas is being loaded onto a bomber aircraft. Diana fights and kills him, but is confused when his death does not stop the war. Sir Patrick Morgan then appears and reveals himself to be Ares. He tells Diana that it is ultimately the decision of humans to resort to violence, as they are inherently corrupt. Ares destroys her God-Killer sword, revealing to Diana that she herself is the God-Killer. While the two battle, Steve's team destroys Marou's laboratory. Steve hijacks and pilots the bomber carrying the poison to blow up the plane and himself from a safe distance. The act causes Diana to realize that humans have good within them. She defeats Ares, killing him for good and ending the war. In present day, Diana continues to fight on the world's behalf, understanding that only love can truly save the world. The end. So one of the things that Tazziii, you picked up on is this film as kind of, or at least as I saw it, like a fish out of water film, where you had Diana, who is, like you say, brought up on an island, just full of strong women and with no concept of what's going on. Like, she doesn't even know the war is a thing. And then she's taken to a place that is not only different from her island in terms of, like no men, but just the politics and the society at the time of a 1918 London, and how you've got this superpowered woman in a place where like women can't even vote. And when she meets Steve's secretary, whose name I've forgotten, she like reminds her of certain things like that. So I thought that was like an interesting kind of setup for that.
There's one line in particular when she first meets the secretary and she's like, where I come from, we call that slavery.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the best lines in the film, to be honest.
Yeah.
Was that the trailer? That was in the trailer as well, right?
It was,
Was it?
yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that. I remember the line in the film.
Like, oh, well,
that
the pay is a bit better, but
yeah.
A similar concept. Or even like when they're trying to pick out new clothing for her, and she's like, "Oh, how do you fight in this armor?" She's like, "This is for fashion." And then just that discrepancy between like the world Diana's come from and this world, or even
wears one of the dresses, and she's like, "Oh no, dear."
Yes. And I think like when she goes into the meeting that, and people are just like, "There's a woman in here." Like that's it's a weird scene because you're reminded that this was actually a thing once upon a time.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite scenes from that whole sequence of events that we were talking about just before is when she's trying to go out of the revolving door with her shield and sword and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't appreciate, like, when I saw this movie in the cinema, I didn't actually appreciate how good Gal Gadot's like comedic timing is, because it's a very physical gag, and you have to kind of you have to buy into the gag in order for it to work. So you can see, she's got this really earnest look on her face, and she's got a shield and a sword with her dress and hat and glasses on, and she's like, right, I'm ready, let's go. And she's super eager to go, and she can't like figure out how to get through the revolving door. And then Steve Trevor's like, look, let me show you. She's like, no, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah, I got this.
I need just to jump through and get through on the other side. And I thought that was a great kind of metaphor, I guess, for her character as a whole throughout the movie. And, she's a bit kind of confused and befuddled by this world outside of the world that she knows, but she adapts to it pretty quickly whilst also maintaining her personality and her drive. And, she never changes. She never kind of wavers from what it is that she wants to do. She just finds a way to kind of overcome the problem, which she does with that scene. So, I really like that sequence.
And how do you all think Gal Gadot did as Diana, like just Diana / Wonder Woman? How do you think she played the role?
She's got the confused look down to a T.
Yeah.
That completely bewildered kind of. I just don't understand this. Like, why am I not allowed here? Like, what is this? Why is your leader so weak? Like, just constantly like that questioning, like,
because
what is this concept?
And she has a go at Steve because, like, why didn't you stand up for yourself? Like, why?
And it's so funny because you talk about the fish out of water, and not only like women not even allowed to vote and blah blah blah, but even in their the Amazonians' culture, they're kind of more. It's not like, here is the leader and everyone else must follow. They kind of like consult with each other quite a lot, and where like each person's opinion is considered, and they're a union. They work together, whereas it's kind of like a top-down situation when she comes to London and the rest of the world. It's kind of your leaders sit up from a higher place out of the way and give orders, whereas they kind of just work together where she's from. So
Jason, what did you think about her performance?
Yeah, I mean, as I said at the top, I think she is really kind of the standout from the movie in general, and is probably, in my opinion, the best thing about it. She clearly, you can see that this is a character she enjoys playing. And you can also see that she kind of identifies with this Diana, who is very kind of principled and very, as said, will not kind of shake from her morals or her position, regardless of kind of what happens. And you can kind of see that in the confidence of the performance that Gal Gadot gives. And I said I did not see this coming from her because, I said the few films I'd seen her in before, I was like, oh, okay, but in Wonder Woman, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
She really, really, embodies the character. And I said, you can kind of see the passion she has for the character in every single scene and every single frame that she's on the screen for. So for me, she's, definitely one of the huge positives out of this film is her. And I feel for me, she's kind of almost kind of carries the film. I mean, Chris Pine does a really good job as kind of her straight man to more comedic elements. And, they do have like a genuine chemistry together on the screen that's really watchable. But yeah, for me, as Gal Gadot is really outstanding. She really is.
And have either you or Rich, are you that familiar with the comic story and sort of the comparisons between it, like how she's represented in the comics versus the film?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'll defer to Rich because Rich is our resident comic book guru, so he will probably be able to say more accurately, more about the character's history. But, from what I have read in comics over the years, this is a fairly accurate portrayal. Obviously, DC Comics has, over 60 years worth of history, and the characters have gone through various journeys and have been in the hands of different creators who have done slightly different things with the characters at different points. So it's kind of hard to kind of nail down one specific, representation and say, Gal Gadot's performance is similar to this or to that. But to me, it felt pretty accurate. But as I said, I mean, Rich will probably be able to better tell you than I can, really.
No, it felt really accurate to me, especially in regards to, say, like, really, really early stories of Wonder Woman. I like my Golden Age stuff. And the bits that you guys will find, we're talking about, how she's a fish out of water, that the earlier stories really, really, like, focused on that, especially, like, she'd be doing something, let's say dressed up as Diana, and she wouldn't be allowed in a place, and then there'd be like a speech bubble or like a thought bubble above her head, just breaking down all the badness that men do to women, and be like, well, they'll respect me when I go get changed and change it to Wonder Woman and handle the business. So in that respect, it was quite accurate. For me, the strongest thing, or the strongest person in the film was actually Chris Pine. Unlike the second watch, which happened last night, like Gal Gadot, she was a lot better, and that same thing as you, Jason. I did appreciate the physical gags that she was able to pull off. But she still, number one, she felt forgettable in this movie, and in this movie there was no one standout scene where I just went, you know what, she will forever be Wonder Woman. Like, I think that scene for her happened in Batman vs Superman. There's like one bit where she fights against Doomsday, and then she gets punched in the face, and she kind of looks at the camera, and she's like, yeah, I like that. And you're just like, that's Wonder Woman. Like, and I always feel that in a standalone film for a character, you always need that one scene. It usually happens in the first movie, and if it doesn't happen by the second movie, you're kind of done. So, like, for example, for me, let's say Tobey Maguire as an example in Spider-Man 2, is the scene where he saves the train and he takes the mask off and everything. After that scene, it was very, very hard to cast another Spider-Man. That's why they messed up with Andrew Garfield. You know what I mean? And I never felt like I got that from her in this. It felt like everyone else was kind of just like pushing her afloat. Not even to say that she was doing a bad job, but like without Chris Pine, I think this film would have failed. And then there's a couple of other performances from the gang that they hang around with, which are quite good as well. But,
so did you think like the moment where she crosses no man's land? Because for me, that was like her moment, like unveiling Wonder Woman and everything she stands for, because I think it comes just before like Steve Trevor is saying, you know, we can't do this. Basically, you can't cross. It's impossible. Can't do it. And she's just like, no, I'm going to do it. And then she does it. And then she has that like rallying moment that kind of represents Wonder Woman. Do you feel like that was her moment?
No. The thing is, I thought that was a really good scene.
Yeah.
And it was one of those, but like, you know what it was? It felt too clean. Like, I don't know, like, I get what the scene stood for, and I think it conveys the message perfectly, but there's one bit where she first comes over, and like, the background is like World War. Like, it's just, you know, just trenches and like, you know, mud and soil and barbed wire. Yeah. And she's there, like, she's just come off like an Instagram filter. And I was like, no, I don't want to see you struggle, but I want to see you like get deep embroiled in wars. Like, but let's say by the end of that scene, she's a bit dirty and she's a bit scuffed up. She just still looks too pretty. And so that, to me, that scene didn't really grab me like how it was supposed to. Okay. Like I said, that thing, like with the scene with her versus Doomsday, she takes a blow. She's on her, you know, she lands on her back. She kind of gets onto one knee. I think she's got a little bit of blood and she wipes it off. And it just felt a little bit more like you want to do this. Like, you know, there's a bit more to the character there for me in that scene.
That sounds more like a costume and makeup issue rather than acting. And something that is just very present in films when you have a female leading role is just ridiculously good hair and makeup and stuff. And I'm like, that's just not how real life works. Even for superheroes.
It's true, I guess, now thinking about it, she does come off quite sort of untouched by war, like the war that's around her.
I think, though, how she does portray Diana in some of like the more emotional points, like really kind of, like you do feel it. I think there's just before that scene actually, and there's like the horse that's not moving and they're whipping it, and then there's an injured soldier, and I feel like her performance at that point was just, that's when it hit it for me, because there was just so much emotion in, like, I don't know how, it was a very short scene and it was just flashes. So I think her performance there was really good.
Yeah, and I mean, like for me, as I was watching it, and I think maybe a couple years ago, I read sort of the New 52 Wonder Woman series, and just the thing I was struck by, like just beyond like all the superpowers and all that, is just her unending compassion for everyone around her. And I just got that from reading the comic, and just watching this, I felt that came through for me, where, yes, she's this like superpowered Amazon warrior, but she's just endlessly compassionate for everything and everyone around her, and always looking for the good in people. And I felt that that came through really well. That's something I like about Wonder Woman. Yeah, so, and then as I was watching the film, just picking up on some of the themes that I felt were trying to be portrayed. So you have this idea of right and wrong and doing the right thing, even though it's difficult. So you kind of saw that, speaking of her unveiling scene when she crosses no man's land, you have that sort of moment there where, you know, she does the right thing regardless. So even though everyone else is telling her, you know, this is not the thing to do, this is why we can't do it like this, she just like has a very, I guess in some way her character has a naive sense of right and wrong. You might argue, but it's one of the themes I picked up on. And then also this idea of just mankind just being naturally predisposed to war and conflict. And there's a line early on, just before she leaves with Steve, where her mother says, I think she says, like,
they don't deserve you.
Yeah, that. And I was thinking, like, is that true? Because and then Steve
reiterates it in the end, saying, no, it's true, we don't deserve you, but you know,
you're here now,
we
so.
need you. We don't deserve you, but we need you. And I think as well, like, I feel like you say like she's naive, and I think she just is straight up naive at the start. And I feel like that's kind of like her character growth at the end, is that she starts to understand more and then chooses to do the right thing. I mean, she's always choosing to do the right thing, but I feel like she grows at the end and then realizes the points where she's been naive without thinking about it.
Sure.
And then she kind of like, oh yeah, I was being naive, but that doesn't change the decisions I'm making or going to make.
Yeah, and the other reason I sort of picked up on that, sort of, does humanity deserve, are we just like doomed to destroy ourselves, is just, and I keep coming back to this, once you see it, you can't unsee it. People fighting for toilet paper in a pandemic has just really changed my outlook on the world. And like, sometimes when I watch these films, I'm like, yeah, are they right? Like, do we not deserve this? 'Cause we fight over toilet paper and things like that. But
don't deserve it, but we need it.
But we do need it. We do need it. Like, we really need it.
Also, like, when you're in this film particularly, Ares says like, "Oh, I didn't do anything. I just whispered the formulas, and they chose to use it for destruction." But he didn't whisper in their ears about how to bring about world peace or, I don't know, get rid of world hunger. Because I'm sure if he'd whispered those things in someone's ear, they would have been like, "Okay, let's do that." So I feel like he's still fully the culprit there. He's just trying to twist. Just trying to twist words. Like, I'm like, no, I don't buy it. I mean, you gave him an option, but not really. He
is also playing the politician, so he's, good at spreading that responsibility and blame around. It's not just me, it's these other people too. Speaking of Ares, actually, so I said early on about sort of consolidating the things I liked about the film, but also really the things I didn't. And the main thing for me was that third act. And I wonder what everyone else thinks about the reveal of Patrick Morgan as Ares. Although I will say, I did kind of like maybe a meta commentary or something I just picked up, the idea of having the politician who's fighting for the Allied forces and fighting for the armistice be the one that's actually Ares and pushing the war. So that was an interesting twist. But what did you all think about the twist of having him revealed as Ares?
I thought it was obvious. I saw it coming a mile off. I remember seeing it a mile off in the cinema. I remember as soon as David Foylis came on screen as Sir Patrick, I was like, I bet you he's Ares. And then when it turned out he was Ares, I turned to the person I was watching the film with. I said, see, I told you she's like sharp. But it just felt like a completely unnecessary plot twist. They made the German general, I've forgotten his character
Ludendorff.
Yeah. They made him so unscrupulously evil to be almost pantomime. Yeah. And when you've done that, then clearly you're saying this is not your hidden villain, because you're making it quite obvious that this is not your hidden villain. So then the only other person it could be is somebody who is virtuous and good, and it's not going to be Wonder Woman, because that's your main character. So who's the other person here who is virtuous and good? Oh, this person who says they're fighting for peace. So to me, it wasn't a surprise at all. And I think I kind of groaned a little bit inside when they actually made their quote unquote reveal that he was Ares. So, a big part of my problem with the third act is that I just felt that was such an unnecessary plot twist, really.
I forgot that's what happened at the end of the film. I'm not gonna, when I was watching it for the second time, I completely forgot. And I feel like I have a bit of a bias that like made me blind to see what was going to happen. Because in my head, I was just like, oh, it's Professor Lupin, because I'm a massive Harry Potter fan, and like, so in my head, I'm just like, it's Professor Lupin, and the character. Like his character at the beginning is very much Professor Lupin. Like it's like, oh, I'll watch over you while you do something that you're not really supposed to do, but if I'm here, it's okay. So I felt like I was a bit blindsided. And then when she killed Ludendorff, I was like, I kind of remembered it, but I was like, what happened next? And it wasn't until everything happened that I was like, oh yeah. But yeah, I didn't really like the last bit. It's so forgettable. It's such a forgettable.
It is. It's completely forgettable.
Ending bit. It's just very. I feel like it's a little bit rushed and overacted.
It's very over earnest, isn't it? The conversation between the two of them. It's just, it doesn't feel like a human conversation. It feels, and I get it. They're two gods, so you know it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to kind of have a conversation between two gods and present it in a human way. But at the same time, you do remember that you have an audience and the audience is looking for people to, relate to, and is looking for ways to relate to this piece of dialogue, this piece of exposition that you're giving. And, if the conversation is so earnest and, and this, humans have been this way since time immemorial, and they are weak, corrupt. Diana, weak and corrupt, you must join me, and together we shall reshape the world. And it's like, oh, come on.
It reminded me a lot of like two teenagers fighting.
Two teenagers, yeah.
It was such a like, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right kind of thing. And everyone sided on his side. Like, it's just kind of like, you're not going to change your mind. Like, it's very obvious. And I feel like even the point where it is her, like, questioning herself. I don't know, I feel like that whole thing could have happened without him.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's funny when
and it would have worked probably better.
Yeah, it's funny. When I watched it, I for the second time, I was thinking like, first of all, I was thinking like, wow, we've come so far with comic book movie villains now. Like, considering the type of quality of villains that we've had in some comic book movies in terms of having understandable almost motivations, and those characters having dialogue good enough that expresses their motivations in a simple way that an audience can get. And it reminded me of Man of Steel, which is a movie I don't like at all, really, apart from the villain in that movie, General Zod. And even though Zod is kind of doing, standard comic book movie villain things, his reasons for doing it are very relatable, because he explains, I'm trying to save my people. I'm trying to save my culture from extinction. And, I love my people to the point that if that means I've got to trample all over this planet Earth in order to keep my people alive, then that's what I'm going to do, because that's what I was born to do. It's what I was raised to do. It's literally in my blood to do that. And I didn't feel that with the conversation between her and Ares. It was just, as we said, very kind of over earnest and just not really relatable and quite forgettable. And, as you said, Tazziii, you probably could have had Diana have an internal conflict of her own, and that probably would have worked just as well, if not better, in my opinion.
I do remember watching it like the first time and not liking the third act, but not really realizing why until I watched it the second time, and just feeling like just bored at the end. And I think a lot of it is to do with Ares and the reveal. So I definitely wasn't a fan of it, and not so much for the reveal itself, but kind of what it did to the story and the theme that was building up up until that point, because it kind of reversed a lot of the theme, and it descended into what, you know, comic book films get criticized for a lot. It's just this mindless CGI battle that isn't really about anything. And it was like, why did you had a path, and you kind of, it's like they took a hard left into like just what has been done before. And that just annoyed me, because I did really enjoy the film up until that point. But yeah, just I guess it's almost like, you know, we've had so many good superhero films, and like the bar's been raised, and it's not good enough to just have these two, you know, visually impressive things fight on screen and then one come out on top. It's just that's been done, and you just don't want to see that again.
I feel like as well they could have used some of that visual effects budget on just improving the overall visual effects in some other scenes, where it just is very. It's good, but it's not like this level of film, like this big of a film good. And yeah, I think they could have just used that money to clean up other areas, and so like just made an internal struggle. Like they could have used the same like images of the Earth, you know, returning to like this oasis of green, and it just been a complete internal struggle of hers, like, are humans worth it? And
I don't think greens are color allowed in the DCEU. I don't remember ever seeing like bright green, nice colors.
Apart from in this one scene in when Ares is describing.
Well, we can thank Zack Snyder for that. That was his thing. Because yesterday when I rewatched the film, I was like, wait, let me just check the credits, because I want to check something. And lo and behold, there was his name, loud and proud, as producer and as story credit on Wonder Woman. And I was like, that's why it gets so grim and disgusting looking towards the end. And that stupid battle between Ares and Diana at the end. Yeah, because it is really through and through.
Yeah, it is really dragged out as well. Even the battle itself is dragged out. Like there's bits where I'm like, are they done throwing things at each other? Because it feels like this bit has been going on forever, and like I kind of want some resolve already, because it's like it's just a pointless battle. Like there's no one's growing, no one's getting the upper edge. Like it was just very it's like I
get what you mean. What were you gonna say, Rich?
No, I was gonna say I checked out. You see, like the third part, I checked out before Ares came. I checked out when they continued to make that guy like the villain, and they gave him some like super strength stuff. And I was like, no, this is fake. I was like, no, this is fake. You're still old. Like he hasn't done any form of training. Like there's a stunt double, and then they killed him. And then they brought Ares, and I was like, no, then they brought David Thewlis. Like, it's David Thewlis. Well, he's the villain. And I was like, wow, you're even worse than the guy from before. Like, you pose no physical threat, right? And then they made him into Ares, into the CGI thing. And I was like, the CGI looks whack. Like, I've just had 3 villains in the space of 10 minutes, and I'm not scared of any of them. So I was checked out already. So like, the speech between the two of them, don't even remember it. And the other thing I remember seeing is that, you know, the guy who plays Ludendorff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry for him, because like he's well-respected actor in Hollywood, but it just got me thinking that there are particular actors and actresses out there who look like Nazis, and I'm just like, okay, that guarantees that you're going to get work all the time. But you look like a Nazi, dude. Like, that guy just looks like a Nazi, and it just reminded me, because I've been watching Hunters for that. Once you've got that evil Nazi look, like, you're guaranteed to get paid, man. There's always going to be a role for you. But I don't know, just got me thinking.
That's such an interesting description. Like, you look like a Nazi.
Yeah.
To put that on your CV and just like to get work from that. Oh man. But, I will say, like, because I obviously not a fan of the third act, but I try and not let it take away completely what happened before, because I feel, especially as we said with some of the other efforts from the DCEU around that time that it's still head and shoulders above things like Suicide Squad, Batman v Superman, and so on and so on. So it's a step forward. Like, that's kind of the takeaway I got. Like, okay, it's a step. Maybe it's not a huge step, but it's just a step.
I feel like at least the last bit is so forgettable. Like, for me anyway, so forgettable. And that the rest of it is really strong, because a lot of the time with movies, what they do is have a really strong beginning and like a memorable end, and then just not great in the middle. And then everyone walks away from it being like, oh wow, that was absolutely amazing, but really it was just like the little bit of the beginning and the bit of the end. Whereas this kept like a good story throughout and then just failed in the ending, but it didn't take away. It wasn't like one of those terrible endings that just completely take away from the whole film, which definitely happens sometimes. It kind of just fizzled out. You're like, oh no, I remember this good film at the beginning. And some wonderful moments. So at least they, didn't make it so bad that it's all you can think of.
Yeah. All right. So then as we look ahead to its sequel, which I think is August. Is it still coming out in August? It's been delayed, I know.
Yeah, it was June.
Yeah, I believe it is August. As things stand.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, so
as things stand, it's August is the new release date they've given for it.
Yeah. All right. So my question then is, are you looking forward to a sequel, and how do you think? Because I mean, it's still. This, along with Aquaman, Shazam, sort of one of the most successful sort of DCEU films. Are you looking forward to the next Wonder Woman, and in particular, what's coming in the next round of DC films?
I think I am generally looking forward to Wonder Woman 88. I think what I've read about it sounds like, again, like quite an interesting story. So that will usually get me on board. I thought the trailer was mostly pretty good. The trend seems to be heading up in terms of the DC movies at the moment. I quite enjoyed Aquaman, and I very much enjoyed Shazam. And you're right. I think, Wonder Woman, even with its faults, was, for me personally, a step in the right direction. And I think now that we've finally seen the back of Zack Snyder, we should actually start to get, some uplifting movies from DC, and we already have. So, I'm a bit more optimistic now, whereas I was quite pessimistic before whilst he was still involved and calling all the shots over there. Now he's not involved anymore creatively with the process. I think there is enough potential and enough good seeds have been sown for something to grow out of that. So, I'm looking forward to it. Okay.
How about you, Rich?
I mean, I'm not excited about it. I'll watch it because obviously I'm a comic book fan, and it's Wonder Woman, so why not? But for me, this would be make or break. Like, this has to be like the first one is mediocre for me. This one has to be really good in order for me to be like, okay, cool, like, well done. Like, because I think, like I said, the majority of the DCEU films, they're all mediocre or nonsense. Aquaman's entertaining, but I still think that, that could have been tied up a couple of places here and there. And Birds of Prey, I'm like, okay. So, but that's in my opinion. But I think, like, this one has to really come and smash it out for me. Like, I would like her to be the face of the DCEU. Like, forget Batman, forget Superman, use Gal Gadot. Like, and put her into that position by giving her a really, really good sequel. I really hope it comes out like that, but I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. Like, they just seem to keep on missing the mark. And I know Zack Snyder's not involved anymore, but I don't know how true that is, man. But
it's in the shadows somewhere.
Yeah. And I'm a Zack Snyder fan, but I mean, he did nothing for the DCEU, I think.
Well, he did something, but just not.
He did something, all right. Yeah, still glad he did something.
No, in fact, he did do one. He did do one good thing for me. Just that fight scene in Batman vs Superman in the warehouse where Batman just decimates the guards. That's the only good thing out of the whole of the DCEU for me. That stands out.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm a harsh one. So.
I'm looking forward to the next Wonder Woman, and I am quite looking forward to see what the DCEU films bring out. I'm really intrigued what's going to happen with the new Suicide Squad film.
Yeah, same.
That one's like, I'm like, what's going to happen here? Like, I'm just very like interested in what they do with that, with this like reboot that's for a new film. Really weird. But yeah, because I really liked Aquaman as well. I thought that was really good. And then this was really good. And like I really enjoyed Birds of Prey, which is obviously a much lower budget than everything else. I think people forget that as well. So yeah, I think some good stuff should come. I'm still a Marvel fan, but
yes, I'm kind of the Suicide Squad one is interesting because I've gone on record. I think the original Suicide Squad is just terrible. So if that comes out and it's not terrible, then there's hope. Basically, that's my standard. Like, if the next Suicide Squad film is not terrible, there is hope.
Listen, that Suicide Squad film like hurt me deeply. Like, if you understand how much, like Suicide Squad, I have a really personal connection to Suicide Squad comic books because I got into those because they were kind of the first and last thing my grandfather gave to me before he died. So I read like those Suicide Squad books religiously, and I was like, oh my God, like these stories are amazing. Like, these characters are crazy, and anybody could die at any time. Like, anybody's head could get blown off at any time. Like, there was double crossing and triple crossing, and it was just, the stories were so vivid, and as I said, they had like a vast array of kind of characters to choose from. And then I remember being really excited when they announced that they were doing a Suicide Squad film. And thinking, oh my God, this is going to be great. And then, they were introducing Harley Quinn, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not a massive Harley Quinn fan, but she's a fan favorite character. So, they're bringing her to the screen as well. So that's got to be good. And then I remember sitting down watching the film, and literally within about, I think, the first 20 minutes, I was devastated. I was just absolutely like, what on earth is this? What is this? Like, who is this for? Like, you've made this movie for people with ADHD, maybe. I don't know, but I don't. Who is this for? And just feeling betrayed, completely and utterly betrayed. But I think having James Gunn on board is a masterstroke. Especially given what he's done with obscure characters for Marvel, and the incredible work he's done with that. So, if he can bring even 50% of that to Suicide Squad, then we're off to a good start. So
because 50 plus 0 is 50. So,
yeah.
Let us know what you think about Wonder Woman, and what you're looking forward to in future DCEU films.